Welcome to Rewrite the Mother Code, a podcast that ignites and celebrates your inner mothering essence, equipping you with the tools to live your dream life. I'm Dr. Gertrude Lyons, an author, coach, educator, and a blend of research, scholar, and mystical medicine woman. Join me in exploring holistic women's development, parenting, self-love, relationship fulfillment, and so much more. Let's delve into the depths of our inner mothers to reawaken our greatest selves and live our juiciest lives. In this podcast, we'll have conversations about mothering and motherhood that are real and raw and unlike any other. Through interviews with inspiring guests, live coaching sessions, and reflections on my own journey, Rewrite the Mother Code invites you to explore what it would feel like to stop living by limiting cultural and generational norms and start living and loving a more intentional life that you designed. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Rewrite the Mother Code with me, your host, Dr. Gertrude Lyons. This week, I have the blessing and honor to have a guest, as I often do. Her name is Erem Latif, and I'll tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll bring her on so you can hear all about her journey and the beautiful work that she's doing in the world that we could all benefit from. All right, so Erem Latif is a behavioral scientist and the author of Live Engaged. Her book came out in October 2025, and it is awesome. So just preempting that right away with grab a copy of that. So Erem, author, scientist, she has an MS in physiology, trained in neuroscience, and 12 years in clinical behavioral practice, alongside an MBA and 10 plus years advising C-suite executives. She spent her career on a single question: why two people with the same tools produce completely different lives? Her answer: human technology architecture, the identity and nervous system operating system underneath how we lead, work, and live. So I invite you to come on the journey and look at and just be with, both everything from Erem's journey and how she got to be doing what she's doing and her commitment to that. And then, what this whole, you're going to, hear about this human technology architecture and some, just a really beautiful pathway, again, for self-awareness, self-realization, understanding so we can live the most potent, magnificent lives we can. All right. So without further ado, here is Erem. So as promised, I'm super excited to bring on the show Erem Latif. Erem, thank you so much for being here today.
I am so excited to be here as well. Thank you so much, Gertrude.
Well, having learned about you and, first introduced from our now mutual friend, Megan Taylor, who I, adore and am in love with for so many reasons. So I know anyone that she has in her universe and recommends to be on the podcast, it's a yes. So
she's a fantastic person for sure.
Yeah, she is. So I'm excited. Everybody's heard about your many accomplishments, accolades, and please continue to share those and, all that you've accomplished and the work you've done in the world that's so valuable and important. But we'll start with you just sharing some of that journey, how you got to be doing what you're doing and bringing into the world your book, Live Engaged, which just came out in 2025. Yes. So we both had book babies in 2025.
Yes.
So we have that. So I'm excited to talk about that. But all of it, the journey of it all. And so however far back you want to go, there's always so much, because I believe, in hearing each other's stories, in particular women hearing our stories and how they're never a straight line, and, where we have felt guided, where, mistakes or catastrophes have led us in the next
Yeah.
direction. You know,
Yeah.
it's all so beautiful.
It's all woven together. Absolutely. I'm so happy to share. I guess we'll just backtrack. I think one of the most pivotal experiences that really started my adult life in my early 20s is my mother suffered from a brain aneurysm.
Oh my gosh.
And it happened while she was traveling internationally. And so my father did everything he could to bring her back, got her back. But I wasn't able to see her before she went in for surgery. So
Oh,
I'm flying from somewhere else. I think I was in California at the time and flying, and she was actually brought into Emory University Hospital for neurosurgery. So, however long that was, I barely remember that day. The only thing I do remember is watching her be rolled out after surgery and
mm,
just not recognizing her, right? Her brain is swollen, her head is swollen, there's tubes everywhere. And
oh,
imagine, so she's been traveling for 2 weeks. So already I hadn't seen her. And now I'm seeing her in this just, she wasn't my mother anymore.
distorted state, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. She
yeah.
wasn't my mother that I knew her to be.
Hmm.
And to this day, that feeling still lives inside of me. I will never forget. But
Oh,
thankfully, she was able to come back with months of her own willpower and those at the rehab hospital. And she regained 90% of her, function, walking, talking, all the things. And she was
wow.
almost a more rejuvenated sense of, person than she had been
Mm,
before. It was funny though, that day I made a commitment to myself that I would always take care of my health first, second, like that was the priority, period, full stop, non-negotiable in my
mm,
life. So that decision happened that day. And then as I watched her heal, I decided that was where I was going to spend my career. I was going to devote my professional time to helping patients, right? I wanted to do what I'd seen these doctors do, but also help them tap into whatever I saw my mom tap into, right? Because she was tapping into something else. It
yeah.
wasn't just, the physical therapy or the occupational therapy. There was a fire within her.
Mm,
And as I watched that, I realized that's what I wanted to evoke. So devoted my, 20 plus years in healthcare. And at early days, I was what's called an expert on patient engagement, right? So I worked with patients, coached them, helped them do better on therapy, on whatever given therapy they
mm,
were on, and educated them, kind of gave them the tools they needed to heal themselves. And the strangest thing happened as I started doing that. I started seeing patients that had two patients that were on the exact same course of therapy, exact same diagnosis, two completely different outcomes.
mm,
So my scientific brain, because I am a neurophysiologist by training, my scientific brain wanted to know why. So I kept watching and I
yeah.
kept talking to these patients, and I started piecing something together that
Mm,
they had tapped into, right? That inner power that exists within all of us.
yeah.
And for me, it was just fascinating to observe and to help them cultivate, right? Some of them would go home and play music. Some of them were, painters or artists. Others
Mm,
were, yoga, like into running. Like they had something outside of themselves that helped them tap into their inner fire, if you
yeah.
will. Fast forward, I had my own series of life events. Was spent 18 plus years in a marriage. I was blessed with two children as a result, but there
Mm,
was a lot of verbal abuse during that time
mm,
that I have had to recover from.
mhm,
Narcissist, bipolar, borderline bipolar. It was a lot.
mm,
And I dealt with that while raising
uh,
children, working full time. Friendship groups started going in and out, various job layoffs. I mean, the usual ups and downs that we all deal with, right? I mean, we
sure.
all have those curveballs, as I call them in my book, thrown at us. But fast forward, 2020, I think, was when I started realizing, do I really want to just keep doing this? Because by now I'd moved out of that patient engagement space and into kind of more C-suite adjacent, right? So go-to-market strategy, helping with mergers and acquisitions. But I started seeing something in the leaders that I was working with that also kind of, again, piqued my curiosity. So a few more years, and I was the way I explain it is I was made to be uncomfortable by the infinite intelligent power that exists, so that I finally took that leap.
Wow.
So 2024, I decided I was finally stepping away from my healthcare career. First job was to go write a book. There was a book in
Yeah,
me. There's many books in me, but at that point, I was
sure.
like, I knew there was a book in me. That had been the dream. So the book is all about my journey in discovering my own superpower, and very much starting from that day after witnessing my mother and all the ways as I went through life's trials and tribulations, how I discovered my power. And yeah, fast forward a few more years, right? So that the book came out in 2025 on 11/11 last year, which
Oh, my
was,
birthday.
is it really?
Yeah. So
That's a very auspicious date. I
yes,
mean,
exactly. So I'm happy to have been joined by your book on that beautiful day. Yes.
and yeah, so now I am actively taking all of that I've learned, I've observed, and wanting to pour it back in, right? Pour it
Mm,
back into female founders, business owners, executives. I've built a space, it's called Engagement Lab, where we
yeah.
help organizations or individuals really tap into that inner power and that inner fire, and then leverage it in the business world, which no
Mm,
one has done before. So I'm helping people, what I call calibrate their human technology. So very
mm,
much focusing on nervous system regulation, identity structures, and coherence, so that the person that they feel they are on the inside shows up on the outside.
mm. Well, amen. Right? Like that's so, so beautiful, Aram. And everything that you've been doing along the way has contributed, right? And
A
that just
thousand percent.
not just, but in different ways,
Right.
and manifesting in coherence with who you are in that moment is
Yeah.
what I was feeling and sensing from just so the fact that you're doing that, to me, ultimately, as a coach, is the makings of, a credible, integrous coach, because we
Right.
can't, you know, we can understand these things, learn them, study them, but unless we're living them, it's pretty hard to, I don't know. I think with full integrity, be able to coach others in it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it is something that I've lived it, I've experienced it, I've felt it, I've felt the dysregulation, and every time I just
Yeah.
got more and more curious, right? Like, why
Yeah.
am I feeling this way? What happened that caused this? So I've been doing my own subconscious reprogramming for the better part of 3.5 years to kind of heal
Mm.
all kinds of wounds. And yeah, we've got to
Isn't it
take care of
beautiful when it
ourselves.
takes, yeah. And I don't know about you, but I would imagine if you said over the course of 3 years, you know, the book kind of held that it brings you, it's a portal
Yes.
into doing that kind of work. I mean, I think you can kind of get away with doing it without, you can decide how deep you want to go into that
Right.
portal,
Right.
right?
Yes.
When you're
Yes.
writing, but
Yes.
it sounds like you went all in with it
Well, on
and
myself,
really
of
used it.
course, on myself,
Yeah,
absolutely, because I just got to a point and I said, if not now, then when, right? I mean,
I know.
this life is meant to be experienced to its fullest, and not, not organized into boxes that we just check.
Here, here. Well, there's something I just, I think it's everything that you're talking about, but I just want to name it because in reading your bio and talking about how you coined the term Helix of Health,
Absolutely.
and trademark that term, I mean, is there more that you can say about
Of
it in
course,
addition
of
to that? Like,
course.
oh, well, it's just everything I just talked about, but
It's fascinating to me, and I honestly I coined it because It was almost it's a nod back to my healthcare days, right? Our healthcare system and Western medicine specifically is very focused on body, right? And so there's medicines, there's therapeutics, there's medical devices, all types of solutions available. There's a little bit of the mind that's now kind of integrated here and there, depending on who you speak to and what types of modalities there are. Integrative medicine definitely kind of gives a nod to multimodal healing. But the whole concept of the Helix of Health is that you can't just heal one aspect of yourself. There needs to be an equilibrium across your mind, body, and soul in order for you to accelerate any level of healing and or tap into that inner superpower, which is what I refer to in my book. So each chapter focuses on an aspect, right? So whether that's meditation or breath work, whether that's nutrition and exercise, and then we get into some of the more nebulous concepts, right, about beliefs and thought patterns and how they impact our lives. EFT tapping, sound healing, sound frequency, because it's not one dimensional or even two dimensional, right? Healing in and of itself is three dimensional, and we're three dimensional. Like we've got this woven, intertwined, beingness that we need to calibrate constantly and maintain that level of equilibrium, not so it's lopsided.
Which I love all of this because it gives, I don't know, we have this elusive thing in our culture called like, well, I'm trying to find balance, right?
Right.
And we forget that it's just the journey of, as you called it, going for coherence or equilibrium.
Right.
That is the game, right?
Yes,
Because
1,000%.
we'll never hit that balance or equilibrium and stay there.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's
right.
It's impossible. But somehow we're led to believe that's achievable.
Right.
And then we're mad at ourselves where it's like, oh, I was there. Had everything like was feeling right and together. And then now it's not. Right.
Right.
Well,
something
life
always
intervenes,
happens.
right? Like
Yes.
you got that figured out. It's kind of like when you're raising children, it's like, oh, you just kind of get it down with a certain age and then
Boom.
they become a new age.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's just so obvious with them that it's constantly changing. We just forget that we're like that too. Right.
Always.
So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. And I would love for us all to think differently about when we say, oh, I just want balance. It's kind of like, well, you'll have that, I guess, maybe when you die. I don't know. It's like,
Right.
That kind of
Right.
thinking where it's like, okay, it's not about that, right?
Right.
It's
right. Well, and it's, everyone takes it to heart, right? Every year you see the same thing. Everyone is going to the gym. They're focused on that aspect of health.
Yeah.
But the whole concept like meditation and really, understanding your inner divinity, your inner intelligence, who takes that amount of time anymore? I don't, and I see a lot of people I work with that they can't even meditate because their nervous systems are so dysregulated, right? I mean, that's the state our culture has gotten us to. So it is hugely incumbent upon ourselves to recalibrate our own nervous systems and kind of recalibrate that soul component.
Yeah. No, here. And, while my work, Rewrite the Mother Code, focuses, on motherhood, in some ways, it's really speaking to mothering and how we're mothering all the time with or without children.
Right.
But I think looking at it through that, as women particularly, or identify as women through that, what we may call identity, but you talk about identity,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you talk about borrowed identity and but because I'm, of course want women to explore and look at like, how did you get to be thinking how you think about mothering or motherhood and like what's wired in there? And I think those are along the same lines, but would love to hear more about, because I like this concept of borrowed identity and I want to hear more about
absolutely. And that's, it does dovetail nicely with the concept of identity, right? I mean, we all absorb different definitions, as you said, borrowed identities of what motherhood means. It means something different to me as it does to you, to the person on the street, right? And then our experience of motherhood is so unique from person to person. And so all of that to say that it is that borrowed identity, right? We absorb from everything around us, and that creates that fundamental structure that is the basis for whatever we believe motherhood to be.
Yeah.
And if we don't recalibrate that, if we don't start looking at that foundation that exists in that borrowed identity, then it might start crumbling when we don't jive with who we think we are anymore. And
Mm.
that's why I'm so passionate about identity work for the same reason, because it is the foundation, right? I am not the same person I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. None of us are.
Yeah.
And the only way to leap forward and to be that person that we know ourselves to be is to evaluate that foundation. Is it crumbling? Are there
Mm.
cracks in the foundation? Do we need to reevaluate that structure? Do we need to upgrade it? Because, it's been a hot minute, and maybe those beliefs and everything that makes up that identity need to be recalibrated, right? So to
Mhm.
me, it is the ultimate form of restructuring yourself is by looking at your identity and understanding where you came, like where that belief system came from, and
Yeah.
who do you believe yourself to be now after all this said and done.
Yes, 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 and yes. I love that. Because, well, you're speaking to one of my favorite words, which is awareness, right? Like,
Yeah.
this journey to become aware of the roots of that wiring, the roots of that, got us, believing what we believe and how
Right.
how we believe it. And sometimes I think when we look at the families we were raised in, you know, we someone may say like, "Oh, I don't believe anything like my parents." Well, then you're reactively believing,
Right.
right? Like you're
Right.
not,
Right.
because where you want that awareness to take us is a discern choice, and a choice that like comes from somewhere other than our wounds or our reactivity. And I think that's what you're identifying is so important. So awareness and choice are a couple of my favorite words,
And
in
awareness,
that.
I mean, people don't understand the power, right, of cultivating
Yeah.
awareness itself. It is such a huge unlock, and it next levels your life when you can cultivate that.
And I don't know if you've run into this, but I think somewhere we've been also like trained to believe that like, well, it's better to just keep that locked away, or there has been so little permission to explore and be with that. We think that there's something where we I don't know, it's like we only think like bad things are going to come out of the closet, or
Right.
it's all going to be horrible, or I don't know, like we can't survive it, and that's just other wiring that we've gotten around
Right.
it.
Right. It's another
Making me
level of
think about that
identity.
as you're saying that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
I mean, think about it. We were never told to talk about our spirituality or our soul-led self in the
yeah.
business world or in the corporate world. Yet we're all human beings. We are all existing here together, and we all have that inner something. There is the intelligence that runs the human body. Again, from a physiological perspective, it exists. Whatever you
Mm,
choose to call it, it exists, that
yeah.
intelligence. And to silo that person from the other person and consider yourself two separate halves, then you're not being authentic, I think.
Mm.
And it's a lesson I've had to learn. And I've probably only recently come into the fact that it's okay to talk about both things in the same breath. So,
No, that's yeah, exactly, right. And speak about it in public and in
right.
the open, and
Yeah.
it's we've gotten better. It's not as taboo. People have coaches, people get
Right.
support so much
Right.
more now, and executive coaching is a
Right.
thing,
It's a
right?
thing. Yes.
Um so it's definitely better than it used to be, but it still has that stigma that we're trying to break about it, that there's some weakness in wanting to discover, become aware.
1,000%.
Well, another of the many great things you talk about, but another thing is that I was relating to rewriting the mother code is because when people ask me like, what are some of the like top mother codes or major ones? And one of them is that, you're a good mother if you do it all yourself and and shoulder everything for yourself and put everybody else first. And, those are kind of
The
woven
traditional.
together
Yeah.
in some
Yeah.
ways, but that, getting support or that is a weakness and, you're strong if you hold it all together. And I know that in your work, that's a big thing that you support people, women with. But so this great question that you had, what's the difference between a mother who's regulated and one who's just performing the role really well? Because I think that comes up a lot, right? Like
Oh,
it's
of
like, well,
course. Of
why would I
course.
change? I'm doing fine. Like
Right. Everybody's fine. Everything's
everybody's
fine.
fine. Yeah.
Fine. The word
About that.
fine, right? And it
Ah,
has how many different decibels depending on the stress of the day. I'm fine. I'm fine.
yeah. I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I think that that is the one thing as mothers that we're taught, right? Again, it's that sense of identity. That's that definition that we're all taught that's passed down from
Mm.
decade to decade is, you do hold it all together for your home, for your family, for your spouse, partner, for your kids. Always, everyone always comes first, right? And sociologically, I don't know if it started in the 40s, the 50s, or when it started, but it's integrated and woven into everybody's
Yeah.
DNA. And that is definitely a very easy place to see that level of devotion can also be interpreted as chronic activation of the nervous system, right? If you are collapsing into bed after 3 glasses of wine and doom scrolling because that's your way of unwinding after taking care of everyone,
Everyone.
then are you really taking care of yourself? Or are you just looking for a quick fix? And
Mm.
don't get me wrong, I've also participated in the custom, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a telltale sign of where we aren't prioritizing ourselves. And there's wellness and then there's regulation. And that's
Mm.
also something that I like to differentiate and also explain that both need to be priorities, right? So wellness, definitely take a hot bath, have some hot tea, go to a spa, get a massage. Those are all acts of love to
Mm.
ourselves, exactly the same love that we show everyone in our household. But the regulation piece is when you go one layer deeper, right? And you do
Mm.
have to do some degree of how fried is this nervous system and what can I do to bring her back to, at least
Yeah.
baseline? If not, do I need to meditate? There's EFT tapping, there's breath work. There's so many ways to really learn to activate your parasympathetic system and downgrade your sympathetic nervous system, which is that
Mm.
fight, flight, or chronic activation mode that
Yep.
we're all in. And so, yeah, it is definitely a huge part of the work I do because it's that underneath layer that sometimes gets overlooked and sometimes it gets overlooked a little too long and can cause other problems down the way.
Yeah. Do you find that like the women who you work with and people that you work with, like they realize this is a problem or they just know something's off and like they're not sure what it is in something like this because that's a so sorry.
No worries.
We'll edit that out. Oh, that then you cough and you feel like you're going to sneeze.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm. Oh my gosh. Okay. Mm. Ah. Um, well, because I'm tying this to or thinking about how women know, like we can tell that something's off, or we've like waited so long and now it's physically manifesting itself.
Right.
And if is it a surprise to women that it's I don't know. What do you find how women come to you and then their reaction when you tell them like, oh, guess what? This thing you've been doing is out of sorts.
Right, right.
It's not
No,
like
it's
it's
funny.
wrong. It's just, it's just not serving you.
Right. No, I've seen both sides, right? So
Hmm.
some women don't get it until they air quotes get it, meaning something has that
Yeah.
dis-ease has manifested something in their body that then that sends them into panic mode. So that's unfortunately sometimes that might be the trigger. Otherwise, a lot of them come to me and I think it comes with age and awareness. So
Mm.
as they become more aware, they can sense that disconnect, right? Like everybody's happy, everyone's doing what they need to do, and everyone's getting where they need to go, but I don't feel like myself. And
Yeah.
this might honestly be, some of a attribution to midlife crisis also. It might be that chronic activation of give, 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 and the burnout is the receipt of all of that giving, right? We
Mm.
have to turn it around on ourselves. What have we given ourselves? And again, yes, spa days and massages and even vacations and girls trips are great. But that inner work is what's really going to drive that needle and change it completely. And in the women that get it, when they even if they do a little bit, that sense of freedom. Once they
Mm.
taste that sense of freedom, even for a few minutes, that they've released something or overcome some degree of a belief or an identity structure, they next level, right? Then it's like they've gotten that hit, if you will, and then they want
Yeah.
more because freedom is on the other side, and it's a beautiful place to live.
Hmm. So you've laid out and I believe have patented certain ways, like a framework, to support women in this. And because at the one hand, I know like every person's journey is different, and it's going to, look different. But can you give an example of like what that might look like for someone who comes in and works in your Helix of Health modality?
Absolutely. So, and that's one thing I do emphasize in my book. I personally, I've done the work on myself, right, for the better part of 10, 15 years,
Mm.
especially, after the end of my marriage. I really personally just wanted to figure out how I'd gotten where I'd gotten, what led me there, and how I could get out, and then wanted to set
Yeah.
example for my kids. But one thing I've learned is that everyone wants to tell us the air quotes right way. So my book is very much I built it like a field manual, right? So I
Mm.
give you all the tools and you can figure out what works for yourself, but I guide you on how to figure that out, right? How to connect those dots. So whether that's starting with meditation or breath work, again,
Mm.
just giving yourself moments, I call them micro moments in my book, right?
Yeah.
Micro moments of awareness, silence, alignment, just looking at a couple of clouds or watching a bird while you're in your garden watering your plants. It's very simple to integrate these micro moments into your day. And as you build that habit, then it's like going to the gym, right? You do
Hmm.
one rep and then you want to do two reps, and you know that if you're going to see change, you have to do more than going to the gym once, one day a month. And so it's
Yeah.
the same concept in the book. It's, looking at, look at my diet, look at my exercise. And it's not exercise like how many times did I do HIIT this week and how many times did I run X number of miles. Is
Mm.
am I joyous in my movement and am I moving every day, And then we go deeper and we look at
Mm.
thoughts and words and belief systems, and then we get into the more, ethereal part of the work. And all of that is layered. All of it is a journey of exploring, and you get to see what works for you. Find the secret sauce, if you will.
Sure.
Whatever is your prescription, you prescribe it to yourself. But the
Mm.
way I like to explain it, the easiest way is, I encourage everyone to live engaged for that reason. Living engaged is what I strive for every day, right? I am bound and determined that every day of my life is a love letter about my life to my life for my
Mm.
life. Like we've got this opportunity and it's up to us. It's not anything on the outside, and we can truly shift our experience of reality by tapping into some of these modalities.
Well, I, I mean, I know from my own experience, but it's so heartening and beautiful, to hear how you've, articulated and put this something, you know, with and we can go into that because I'm going to want people to hear the different ways, they can work with you. That was kind of the general sense of what it might look like. That's, kind of to pepper it in there. Um, because sometimes I think, it's again, our programming, our mind will say like, oh, I can't work on myself because it's going to take too much time or it's going to be this or that. And, we have to give ourselves small steps, like easily, so our brain doesn't freak out
Right,
with like
right.
too much change all at once. Like it's just going to shut the whole thing down if we do that. So when we see like, oh, yeah, I can take micro moments.
Yeah,
And when I do those with intention, gosh, I'm noticing that makes a difference.
right,
Okay.
right,
That gives me the
right.
courage to do the next step
A
or a
little
little
bit
bit
more.
more,
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit deeper and creating that kind of security within ourselves, and trust that our system can handle, what we change,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
because there's probably not a woman you talk to like, oh, I could really use that or I need that, but then to actually take the step to do it is courageous and a really big deal, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting to me, and you're right, right. That's the one thing I hear from people is I don't have the time. Air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
I submit you do. I would ask you to look at your day and see, I'm sure you can carve out 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes a day. It is not hours long. This is a
Right,
practice. It's a practice. Even if you took 1 minute at the top of every hour, you would recalibrate
right.
yourself very quickly. It's air quotes, not that hard.
Mm. It's yeah, it's simple, not we make it not easy, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
we make it
yes.
so much harder than it has to be. And
Right,
yes, starting a new habit is a thing and it takes time and
right,
intention and, so I'm not saying that it doesn't require something, but always it's not as hard as we thought it was going to
right,
be.
right. Always, always.
Always. I mean, I'm laughing at myself. I'm not laughing at other people feeling that way. It's like for myself, like that scary thing that I've put off doing. It's like, oh, wow, that wasn't so bad. I can do
Right.
that.
Right. I remember it was, I mean, it's the same concept, right? We do it in all aspects of life. I think it was almost 15 years ago I ran my first half marathon,
Mm,
and it's like anyone who makes a New Year's resolution, right? The first step is just lacing up those shoes,
yeah.
taking a sip of water and stepping outside. No one tells you you have to win the marathon on day one, right?
Hmm.
You got to go for a walk and then maybe a jog and then maybe a run. But yeah, it's once you start, it's actually kind of fun to see what you can achieve.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Then you're like, wow. Wow.
Right.
Sometimes you do that.
Now
And I
I've
don't know
done
if you
this.
felt that
What's
way with the
next?
book. It's like, I didn't think I
Exactly.
could do that. And I did it.
Right. Right. Yeah,
It has its own
exactly.
marathon aspect to it. It's so true. Okay. Well, I think this is a good lead in to letting people know, like, what are ways that people can work with you and, go on the journey with you. And then I have one more question after all of that.
Absolutely. So they can go to my website. There's a free coherence check in right now at my website. And I wanted to make it nice and easy for folks so that they can really understand what coherence is from a lived experience, because a lot of people talk about coherence. But in my questions in the quiz, you can actually really see how whether or not that coherence exists in your day-to-day life. And depending on whatever your results are, there's all kinds of programs and solutions available on my website. Obviously, there's my book. I work with, female
Say the name of
founders.
your book again,
Live
the whole thing.
engaged, live
Yes.
engaged, tapping into your your divine feminine, to tap into your superpower,
Mm.
because that is exactly what I discovered how to do. And I want to share that with the world. And yeah, and I also, of course, work with like companies and executives as well at a different level. It's a little
Yeah.
different focus because it's business focused, but yeah,
Oh, well, that sounds like a beautiful invitation if I've ever heard one. And you're so beautiful, wonderful to be with and at
thank
ease.
you.
And I can tell that the people working with you are very blessed indeed
Absolutely.
to be
I'm
doing
blessed
this.
to be doing this. So I'm
Yeah.
very grateful.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my last question that I ask all my guests is, what does rewrite the mother code mean to you?
That's a good one. Um, it's interesting. So through the course, and I don't know if other mothers have had this experience, as you become a mother, you're, again, this is that kind of borrowed identity, right? We believe that we're supposed to instruct our children, right? We're supposed to guide them, we're supposed to teach them, we're here to foster them into the world. And yes, that's true to a certain degree, right? From a safety perspective and a basic needs perspective, food, water, etc. But I have found that becoming a mother recalibrated who I was.
Mm,
I changed who I was. I learned from my, like the it flipped, right? The script flipped.
mm,
They
yeah.
taught me constantly more about myself. And as you said, right, as they go through different ages and changes and emotions and phases of life, you learn by watching them. And to me, that's what rewriting the mother code means. It's a
Mm,
two-way street. It's not one-way mothering. They mother us almost, in the fact that they allow us to see aspects of ourselves that we not might not be conscious of. And yeah, it's actually been one of the most glorious aspects of motherhood, in my
mm.
personal opinion, for me.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I love asking this question because it's like such a gift to me to hear, because it's always, through someone's lens, that just, gives it that personal, but always profound and always spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
It's, it's never a question I've asked and someone's gotten it wrong. So, that's not the point.
No, it's a
um,
beautiful question, actually.
yeah. And it changed. Well, yeah, it's, thank you. I love it. I love asking it. And like I said, it's been a huge gift. And having you on, Aram, has been so wonderful. Again, shout out to Megan and, for connecting us and bringing us together. And that's another, such a huge part, I think, of our, I don't know, ingredient, and maybe
Yeah.
in recalibrating is support,
Yes. Just being here for
sisterhood,
each other, a
being here
thousand
for each
percent.
other,
Yeah.
and women's support. We've been pulled apart in so many ways, and I think, both, we're not victims to that.
Right.
We've fallen sway to it just as much. So all of this is just so important for us to, reclaim,
Yeah. Yeah.
and reclaim this beautiful feminine power. So thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you for
Thank
what you're
you.
doing. And thanks for
Oh,
being
thank you
here.
for having me. I sincerely appreciate it. It's been a lovely,
Yay.
lovely conversation.
I'm so glad. Me too. Oh, I felt my nervous system regulate sitting with Aram and having this conversation. She's has such a beautiful presence and gentle way about her, yet, you just feel kind of this security and solidity. And I think that's something that, she has cultivated. And clearly she talked about that's something that she has cultivated. And the invitation for us to cultivate that within ourselves, that no matter where we are on that journey, from a super dysregulated nervous system to one that's, had some work done, but can always, feel more, more of that coherence, as she talks about, more. We, I love that we're, debunked that balance is some stasis, some end goal that we can get to and be in balance, but this journey for moments of equilibrium, moments of coherence, and to savor them and ride them and, be with them and then build on them. It's a process of an over and over again and not some destination that we get to. I think that's probably one of the biggest messages I'm taking away from this. So I think when we can look at that and really look at that one head on and get rid of those old beliefs, because I think that'll give us some peace, right? That there isn't like we're not failing at this elusive word of balance, living a balanced life. Because I also get annoyed when people say like that's not possible, as if it's something that you should just abandon and not go for. It's more. I think we were looking at it in a very limited way. So thank you, Aram, for opening my eyes to that. And also, that there's so many beautiful tools and technologies, and just getting started with small steps can make such a huge difference. And, kind of one step at a time, one day at a time, one practice, integration at a time. And before you know it, we're really unwinding some of those, she called them, identities, those borrowed identities. And we really can become, a real, like a person that we are really clear is of our creation and that we're in total authorship and responsibility for that. And we can live it as beautifully and fully as we choose to do so. Okay. Well, if you have any thoughts, questions, always, always that invitation stands to please reach out, please share them. Please follow, me on Instagram at Dr. Gertrude Lyons so that you can, DM me and we can communicate that way. I am super excited for what's coming up in the rest of 2026 and then into 2027 with my retreats and offerings and all of that. But don't be a stranger. Go ahead and reach out, and can't wait for our conversation. Thanks so much. Thank you for being with me on this episode of Rewrite the Mother Code. Dive in even deeper into the content by visiting drgertrudelyons.com. And that's drgertrudelyons.com, where you'll find comprehensive show notes, blog posts, and ways to work with me. If this episode resonated with you and you believe in the significance of this transformative work, take action now. Hit that subscribe button and share this episode with a friend who could benefit from some mother healing. Your support means the world to me, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Leave a review today. Every word fuels the strength of Rewrite the Mother Code. I personally read and respond to each review, so your feedback is invaluable in shaping the future of the show. Together, let's empower our communities and create lasting change. Until we meet again, know that I'm cheering you on every step of the way.